up nicely. It's the Drew and Fuse Show. The Drew and Fuse Show. The Drew and Fuse Show. Yeah, they clean up nicely. Yeah.
Hello.
What's up, Daft Punks? How's everybody feeling today? Fuseamania, we're back.
We're back. I'm feeling pretty good. I got a good night's sleep, I think. And
I wasn't dehydrated when I went to bed, so I slept-ish, but it's not the sleep I want.
I wear this Aura ring, and it tells me all my deets on how my sleep was and stuff. So I'm gonna open it because I want to see. Well, yesterday was a good day. My readiness score was 92 out of 100. So I was ready to conquer the day yesterday.
Yay!
Yeah.
Doc was telling me all about this some new bed he got where it like measures your sleep. And so I can't wear all this shit, especially when I'm sleeping. So I was thinking about getting something like that where it just tells me how terrible I sleep.
Does it tell you your BPM of when you're doing the deed? It counts your pace.
Oh man, I haven't checked that stat yet. But are you? Do you actually adjust as you if you find that it's terrible? Do you like the next day like try and prepare for it?
Yes and no. It just kind of depends on what I've got going on. But I do try to, when I feel good, I try to replicate as much of the things, there's a lot I think that goes into it. It's like, did you work out? Yes. Did you not drink alcohol? The alcohol is the biggest factor all the time for shitty sleep. So that's a big deal always. But yeah. What'd you do this weekend?
So I gigged. I had my emo night. It was a good fun little jaunt. We're kind of mixing in some bootlegging and really getting into making it a total mash of everything. So it's you get the vibe of emo, but for the most part, you still got to keep the girls interested as the party continues to grow. There's only so much you can do. And then I went to Toronto, and fucking Toronto's a rad city, but their weather is not rad. And so I went out there for a concert, and the lightning started happening, and the concert was delayed. But still a great weekend. Flew back home, DJ'd again. So it was a tight window of just about hitting the gigs and having fun.
Right. This weekend
Yourself?
for me, let's see, what did I do? Friday I was at Fishbowl, and it was good. There was a Reds game, but I actually didn't work the Reds game before on a Friday for once. So it was kind of weird to come down there and just get started. Saturday I worked the Reds game, and then I played at Japs Saturday night. It's my first time ever playing there. It's a bar here in Cincy. It's been around for a long time. They have jazz bands that play from like 6 to 10, and then 10 p.m. it's DJ on. It was actually popping in there whole time from the time I started till the time I end, and very sing along.
Wait, real quick. I gotta know the jazz band. I'm guessing brings an older crowd, right? So if it's getting popping right out the gate, uh, what are you starting with, or
Dude,
does it matter?
When I walked in, it was not an older crowd. I would have thought the same thing. And I've been there before. Just in like passing or like to have a cocktail or so. It's like a big cocktail bar here. And it wasn't older, but when I walked in there, because I worked the Reds game, so I got there at like 9:45 and then set up real quick. They have gear there, but I brought my S11 because I just wasn't sure what the mixer situation was. And by the time I got set up and started playing, The first song I played was Espresso, so I just kind of like went into it, and then it was just like a party from the time I started, and until the end of the night.
I ask because I used to live. This is when I was a bachelor, but I used to live kind of downtown Long Beach, and they had this right on the beach. They had this jazz place, right? But it was always like a Kenny G cover band, or it was always dope. It was fun.
Mhm.
But the old people would get out there and just dance and like time of their lives, right? It was amazing.
Yeah.
Super cheap drinks, strong as fuck. They raged, but they never had a DJ. It was always just like
The
people
old
dancing.
people out there doing like the foxtrot or what?
It was a fun night, but we used to go there all the time. You know, meet
I
the
did a
Cougs.
wedding once, and some guy came up to me. He was like, "Do you have anything we can do the foxtrot to?" And I was like, I don't got you, fam." But anyway, enough of us bantering. We got a great guest for you. Drew and I are excited to talk with him because we are both going to be in Nashville coming up, and he is now residing in Nashville. He is from Milwaukee originally. He's a resident DJ at the Barstool in Nashville, which we can't wait to talk to him about. He's got a lot of interesting things that we're excited to chat about, and we're going to bring him on. So please help us welcome DJ Dex.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we're hyped, man. Lots to talk about.
Yes. And, one of the things that we were going to talk about, and let me pull up my notes here because I thought they were there and they're not, is just kind of, you've been in Nashville for how long now?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. So you kind of, already kind of established yourself a little bit as a DJ in Milwaukee before making the move to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were finishing that thought. Nope. Okay, I was gonna ask.
Let you guys talk. My bad.
I was gonna ask. So yeah, you established yourself moving already in Milwaukee, and you moved to Nashville. What's it like to do a big jump like that? I've been thinking about doing a jump myself, or at least becoming a bit of a vagabond here in the next couple of years. What's it like to make a big jump like that?
It's some scary, obviously, but I mean, the way that I looked at it, so my girlfriend got into her master's program here, and she was between looking out here at a school called Lipscomb and then looking at Arizona State. She had taken some classes there. So basically it was coming down to like being between them. At the time I was DJing every single spot in Milwaukee, literally every single bar and club that is any bar or club in Milwaukee. I had my foot in the door, could play at, had a very good following there in the city, and still do really, really well, to the point where it's like when I have friends go back there, I'm just like, hey, hit up these people, they get taken care of. So to me, with working at Apple, I was like, all right, cool. We can go wherever, whether it's going to be Nashville, whether it's going to be Scottsdale. Scottsdale, I actually preferred because I had more connections there. So as far as the DJ game went, I thought in my head, I'm like, well, it'll be easier for me to get my foot in the door there. Whereas in Nashville, the only person that I really knew out here was Dirty Darren, who's my homie from Chicago that played everywhere in Chicago and moved out here probably like 3.5 years ago now. And then DJ Diesel was another guy who I had never really like met prior, but he used to do the booking at El Jefe in Chicago, and I'd been booked there prior by him. So I'm like, okay, cool. At least I like know two guys in the DJ game out here. But other than that, like, you're starting completely bare bones and just not know. I'd never like been here before up until like a couple months before we moved and we came out here to look for spots. And it's different. It's very different out.
That's what I was going to ask is, do you go and start making the treks back and forth and meeting people, or it does make sense that you already had a full-time job or a job that you could transfer into. So it's not so hard right out the gate to just jump into it without having the backup plan. So that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Having that backup plan, or at least the option to work part-time or full-time.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit more of like a security blanket of, oh, like I don't have an oh shit, I need these gigs, versus like a lot of other DJs are like, if I don't have these gigs, I'm not going to eat.
Right.
Right. But it seemed like kind of worked out because I mean, I feel like Nashville's like, it's always been popping, but it's definitely like, I feel like becoming even more of like a place for DJs, and you kind of, I feel like are a part of that with the Barstool gig and that. I see a lot of people coming in and out of there, and a few other spots as well. But it's like, I feel like prior to COVID, DJs in Nashville didn't exist the way it's starting to exist now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And Barstool has definitely been the best place in the city for sure when it comes to like true nightlife. Like there's DJs at a lot of these bars,
Right.
but as far as like a DJ trying to get noticed or level up, you're not going to level up playing at a lot of these bars because, one, you're limited by what you can play by either management, owners, whoever it's going to be, because some of these places are owned by like corporate entities and then just throw on an artist's name on top of it. Whereas like Barstool gives us the freedom to play truly like open format sets that obviously, one, the crowd enjoys more than hearing like the same cheesy fucking top country songs that are like all the sing-alongs, which, like, don't get me wrong, they work a lot of the time, but sometimes it just gets old, and especially playing them just gets old, or it just feels like, fuck, like I have to play this, where you don't necessarily want to. But then on top of that, they're bringing in the guys where like no other venue in the city is bringing in the caliber of DJs from out of town to come here and like make the name for themselves. Like Ava's another spot that brings in people where they've had like Vice, they've had like Joel Corey, James Kennedy, but aside from those couple guys, that's about it. Where Barstool is bringing in people every single weekend. Like we have Pauly D here next week. We got Rick Wonder, who's obviously tearing it up. We got Cazes, who's a huge guy on Headliner Music Club too. You got Crespo coming in here all the time. There's just DJs from all over that are coming in that are playing different music than what is typically heard in Nashville. They're bringing a different energy than what is typically heard from a lot of the guys in Nashville, and just giving more of like a nightlife, Vegas, Miami, New York type feel to what's regularly in Nashville.
Because it is all bachelorettes, not all. It's a lot of bachelorettes that are still coming through, and so it's just the same as Vegas. I'm saying it's baby Vegas,
Right?
That's how they don't necessarily want to only hear country. People want to hear, Vegas as well.
And that's
just
the thing I tell my
Vegas.
Yeah, and that's the thing I tell my friends all the time, where it's like they're coming out here and they're like, like I don't like country. I'm not gonna like Nashville. I'm like, bro, you hear everything out here. Where it's like, yeah, most of these spots have bands, but even those bands are playing medleys of everything, where you're getting Bruno Mars, Ed Sheeran, like all this stuff kind of mashed up, where you'll get Nelly, like Boys to Men, all like they'll do it all. And yes, it's mostly country dominant, but when you got all these bars being 3-4 floors, you get a little bit of everything.
Right.
It's like bar hopping on crack, it's just everyone's looking for the next thing. And I don't know if just those kind of venues play into it, but I did a country night recently, and a lot of the biggest songs were actual like older pop songs, like older Kesha and Pitbull, and just random shit that has line dances to that, people are grabbing onto. So it is molding all over the place.
Yeah. but people will line dance to anything. I mean, I'll play songs that literally should not be line danced to, and people will start line dancing. I'm like, where the fuck? How does this even fit?
Yeah.
So we know the bachelorettes can be obnoxious. They all got their pink on. They're ready with their penis straws and they're ready to get cracking. Do you have a good security base? Do you how are you dealing with these requests from these awful people that are they're nice, but
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
So most of them are pretty cool out here. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think that's one thing that you guys would be surprised by that's different from a Cincinnati, from an LA, where the tip culture here is so different because people are so used to the bands that it carries over to the DJs. So they're not opposed to tipping the DJs for requests. Whereas like back home in Milwaukee, if somebody came up to me and they're like, hey, I want this song, I'll be like, all right, $20. And they're like, I'm not paying $20 for it. Where here you can run that same thing. You'll be like $20. They'll be like, all right. And they'll just pay it.
You just flip the iPad around. You're like, I'm going to ask you a question. Like
20%, 30%. Yeah. But no,
I got mine set to 40, 65, 80.
You gotta start up high. If they want to go lower, they gotta hit that other and then go and find it. So. But no, it's nice. Like at Barstool, especially comparatively to like I used to play at Whiskey Row and 1230 Club, which is like Justin Timberlake's spot. Whiskey Row is Dierks Bentley's spot, which is I fucking love those spots. Those are two of my favorite spots where it's like when I have friends in town, I always bring them there. And those were a little bit different because like your booth is on the dance floor. Like people can just walk up, they could reach over a drink and spill on your shit. Like that's how close they are. Where Barstool, you're on a stage, you're elevated, you're up above, like people can't get to you. So that helps a little, but it's still like people are within shouting reach of you, where I always will have people like yell at me from the side. I can just go walk over, talk to them real quick. But for the like most part of it, you still get the phone request of the people holding up Bad Bunny, or like right now it's Charlie XCX. But yeah, I mean it's not awful out here for as bad as you would think it would be for all the bachelorette parties out here in the pink, and the cow print is big, but they typically they're out here to have a good time, man. They know what they're coming out to Nashville for, and it's to party and have a good time.
Well, I'm gonna ruin my thing. We're talking about ruining surprises or giving away secrets, but I was thinking about opening up an all pink store downtown, just like a little pop up pink store. I think it would crush, right?
True Pierce's Pink Pony Club.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. The Triple P, the Pierce's Pink Pony Club.
There it is. So if someone steals it, then it came from here. Yeah, we got it on video.
I'm gonna start running it next week.
Drew will just come in with his little cart and like he opens the doors and they fold down and there's like the horse pink pony with a stick on it and like pink cowboy hats. Everything.
Hey, you get some pink leather vests with some frays on them, or like some little fringes, whatever the fuck they're called. Oh, they would eat that up.
Yeah.
So what's your set time at the Barstool, and are there bands? Are you playing in between bands, or how's that work?
So they have it set up really nice now. They got it figured out and kind of just down to a science, where during the week they run bands all during the week unless there's like a special event. So like yesterday, Charlie on a Friday was out here performing. He did the after party at Barstool. So Nesh, who's the other resident at Barstool with me, played the after party last night. But otherwise they would typically just run a band. And then as far as like weekend nights, a band will be on until 10:30 and then DJ for the rest of the night. So basically like Friday and Saturday, it's always Chris Ferrara and his band, who's one of the best bands in Nashville, where they're high energy, playing everything, and really think of their set as like a DJ set. Like Chris will come to me and ask me questions and be like, yo, what's that song? And you can tell it's just like in his brain clicking like, fuck, how can we fit this into a live band set? And that's how they run it. And then as soon as it hits 10:30, they play their last song. Chris is like, I'm out of here. We'll see you guys next week. They cut over right to the DJ music. And I'm already on stage, or Nesh is on stage. We start playing right away. So there's no lull in the energy, which I think is what hurts a lot of these other venues, is when one band leaves and the next band starts, there's a 30-minute lull of them switching out equipment or doing whatever. And that's a lot of times where you see people leave the bar and go and hop over to another bar. Whereas that's where we're able to keep everybody, because there's no dip in energy at all. You're just one from the other and you start going again.
Does the band give you a set list so you know? I mean, I'm sure you get there earlier. You've heard what they've played, right? Like
Yeah.
any
I'm
good
typically there like a half an hour
person,
before.
yeah. just curious. I don't know that it really matters, you know. It's
Yeah.
different style, but just curious.
Yeah, no, I'm typically ready. And with Chris, like the last couple weeks, he ends it with Mr. Brightside like every time, because that way it's just like the energy's high for the crowd and I can just carry over right into the DJ set.
Right.
What time do you play till?
So I usually do, it's 10:30 till midnight.
Uh-huh.
And then we always have it's either like us the whole night, or when there's other guys in town, then they come on at midnight. They'll play midnight to 2, and then we close out from 2 to 3, because bars stay open till 3 here. Yeah. So
That's cool.
you open close for everybody, which is awesome, because I mean, even if I wasn't closing, I'd be hanging out there anyway just to listen to these DJs. That's just how I am as a DJ. I'd rather sit there and listen, especially when it's a lot of these dudes from out of town that you don't typically get to hear. Right. And listen to their sets, see what they're playing, how they're playing it differently than how you would play it. And maybe they got some new stuff that's working that you never thought of, and you can add it in and throw it into a crate.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anybody that like particularly like has like surprised you, or that, you know, I shouldn't even say surprised, or just like people that you've been really impressed with?
Like DJ set wise?
Yeah.
I mean, Cazes is always one of my boys that kills it. Very good at working the mic, keeping the energy high. Obviously has plenty of edits and remixes in his bag from stuff that he does for Headliner Music Club and puts out on other websites and stuff like that, SoundCloud. Crespo is another dude that always kills it. I missed Rick Wonder when he was here because I was in Mexico, which sucked because like he's a DJ that I've been following as far as edits and remixes go. I talk to him all the time, but I was gone for that, and everybody that was there was like, "Yo, he fucking killed it." But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what we got coming up. I mean, Echo is here from Dallas, Texas. He was here the other week. Chisel's here a lot. We got Pauly D here next week, like I said, but then just people coming in and out. So there's a lot all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things you also mentioned is that, you know, aside you're exclusive with them too. As one of the things I want to mention, you can't play anywhere else in Nashville, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So, which is how I worked it out. They came to me because that's one of the things that was different with Nashville. Like we were talking about before, of just kind of what was different moving here and trying to get your foot in the door. Nashville was so different than Milwaukee and Chicago, where I was playing like Chicago consistently too. And the way that everything was booked out there is you're doing it yourself. Like if I want to get booked out there, I'm talking to the manager, talking to the owner. Where here, the majority of spots are all ran through an agency. So even to get in with these venues, like I knew out here, I'm very good friends with the GM of Whiskey Row. And when I moved out here, I never wanted to be like, "Yo, Eric, like, can you get me in here?" Because I would rather have it like have earned the gig than feel like I like asked for it. So I never reached out to him, but I feel like even if I would have, like, he doesn't really have a say because these agencies have the contract where they get to handle all the booking. So in order to get in, it's like you have to get in with these agencies, and the guys from the agency are hardly ever like out. So you can't even really like rub shoulders with them to even get to meet him, versus like in Milwaukee or in Chicago, I could go to the bar. I'm going to meet the manager. I'm going to meet the owner, and vice versa. Those people are out on their off nights. So if I'm DJing somewhere else, they're going to hear me, and then they're going to be like, "Yo, we want to bring you over here." Where that was the hardest part and like the biggest struggle for me was just trying to get my foot in the door, where it finally happened, where one of them, a gig fell through, and Darren plugged me in with Jam Factory, which is one of the main companies out here. He was like, yo, they need a person to fill in this gig. And that's how I got my foot in the door. And then ever since then, that's kind of how I got more and more gigs until finally Barstool was like, hey, we just want to make you exclusive and not have to deal with the agency. And I'm like, well, good, because that's how I'd rather do it anyway. And negotiated it to where it made it worth it for me, both financially and like schedule wise. Because when it was through the agency, like that's one of the positives where you could get gigs all the time because they're throwing in bodies just to fill these venues. So it's like I would have stuff pop up the day before where it's like an extra $400 and a gig that I would have never booked myself for, like a hotel or some of these corporate venues. But sometimes you're doing 3 gigs a day where I was DJing from noon until bar close, where now I don't have to worry about that. And I'm making the same, if not more money.
Right.
That's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So also you mentioned that you're in school right now at Belmont. You kind of want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I moved out here, obviously with Maddie going to school to get her master's, I knew that Nashville had some very good music schools. I had a buddy, OMG Parker, who lives out in New York now, but was living here at the time. Really good producer. Just actually put out a new remix too. But he went to Belmont. He was actually from Wisconsin. So we got to talk about a bunch of stuff like that. And I got to meet him. He told me a lot about like Belmont's program because I was asking him some questions, like just to figure out if it was worth it. And I just knew I needed to expand my knowledge. Like as far as being an open format DJ, you will definitely plateau if you don't have some sort of production background. You can only get so far just being a DJ, where getting into these other cities and tapping into these other markets, if you don't have some sort of following where people are listening to your music or you're pumping out edits and remixes and originals, it's going to be hard to get your foot in the door. So I knew with Belmont and their music program that obviously I could use that to learn and help me advance my career as a DJ and a producer and an artist, hopefully.
I just think that in general, and not just, going to a new place, but just in general, I think it's good for everybody to have some kind of production knowledge, be able to morph your sets into what they need to be. I think it's kind of becoming a lot more mandatory if you want to have any kind of name for yourself. Yeah,
I agree 100%. I think so many people are just like okay with just being like stagnant, especially at like in a smaller market. They might not think that they like need to because they're getting steady gigs and things like that, but they're not necessarily looking at bigger picture of like, do I want to go play in these other markets? So then they just don't even bother to learn it.
So with the school, do you get to kind of choose the path you want to go on, or like is like plug and play different courses you want to do, or is it like one course and then it takes you from there? They teach you what they feel you should know.
No, so you can plug and play to an extent. Obviously, like there's prereqs, like I can't just jump to the highest level of music production, but for what they offer as far as programs, you can do like an audio engineering route where that's going to be more catered to you actually like running a show and setting up equipment for like bands, concerts, tours, that kind of stuff. Or like for me, I'm in the music business program where that'll be my major with a music production emphasis. So that's what I thought fit me better because that's what I would want to learn anyway. Because that way, if I want to go over to a record label, if I want to become a tour manager or start booking events or run an entire tour, I'm going to learn all the contracts, everything for that. And then I have music production as well. So I've done a couple production classes, and then actually starting tomorrow, I have a master production class that's going to really dig into all of the DAW work and just making songs yourself. And then on top of that, I have a minor in graphic design communications, because that's something I do all the artwork and everything for my show. I do a lot of artwork just like for one-off flyers and stuff that I need or friends need. And I just think that's something very, very useful and something that can be a little side hustle to make a lot of good money on when venues need stuff done. So I wanted to do that too.
Yeah, I was talking with a friend just recently, and talking about my kid or their kid, and how is college even still important anymore? What are you doing? What are these people doing with English degrees? So having basically a trait or learning a trait and only going to a specific school just seems so much more valuable
Mhm.
than going and learning a bunch of horseshit. It's like,
No, and that's something I struggle with too, like here at school, where I mean, I took a fucking math class last semester where I'm like, why the fuck do I have to take this? Like
right,
that's the part that makes me think like, all right, do I really want to go to school where I could just hit up my buddies like and learn shit on YouTube and do the same thing? But then just like being at Apple, like a lot of the places that I wanted to go were just blocked just because you didn't have a degree. Where you couldn't
right.
even I couldn't even get my foot in the door to be an employee at Apple Music Studio, which is right here in Nashville, unless you have like an audio engineering degree or a music production degree.
Well, yes, obviously, there's always going to be little things,
Yeah.
roadblocks for anything. But I've just been questioning it a lot more lately, as I have a kid that's not too far off from school. It's like, how in debt do we want to get
Hmm.
for something that are you just going to party the whole time?
Yeah. Or
So,
something that they can just learn without paying that money. I mean, that's the hard part
well,
because
the
I
YouTube route, I think, if you have the discipline, I mean, I guess, but at the same time, I think it is good to be held
yeah.
accountable for, and go to some kind of thing. If you're paying for it, you're going to spend the time.
And that's what I think what school teaches you is like the discipline of
Right.
having deadlines and meeting those deadlines. Teachers that don't accept late work, and then you're fucked. So yeah,
I
that's what
just
it'll
think
teach
that
you.
like at this point too, where it's like you don't have to. The world's a little different now. Like you don't have to graduate high school and go to college right away. You can take some
Mhm.
time and maybe figure it out and be like, you know what? I was gonna go to school for, chemistry, and now I'm not because I decided I don't. That's not something I want to get into, and I took a couple years, and it's. I don't think the world is as forced as it used to be, where it's like you got to go to college right after you graduate high school, and I think there's something to be said for like just giving yourself some time and figuring some stuff out. But there are people that know right away
No,
too,
yeah.
and then
Mhm.
that's fine too.
I needed all that time in Costa Rica taking acid and just bouncing around in my bathing before I knew. I'm
Made
gonna
you
be a
the man you are today.
Mom, I'm gonna be a DJ.
I love it.
I mean,
Oh,
it's like I feel like everything is like a path, right? And it's like had I
Yeah.
not done the things that I had done to get me to where I am now, I wouldn't even have the same opinions, and even the like I have way more discipline now than I would have had when I was 18 to do anything. Like
Yeah.
there was zero discipline then for me. I would just do whatever I wanted, and wouldn't have been able to complete anything.
Yeah.
my question is, what year are you on right now, and how, as of this moment, would you say it's been worth it?
So I started last summer, and I've done last summer and this summer. So I'm already halfway done with a full 4-year bachelor degree in 1 year. Um, so technically, like this fall,
It's
I'm a
it's an
junior.
actual bachelor degree.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a
Eh,
bachelor's in business. Yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah. So
gotcha.
yeah, I'll be a junior starting tomorrow. um, in my 30s, so it's always fun having these 18-year-olds in my class that are fucking music savants that have been just growing their whole life like with a music background and know everything, and I'm just like, what the fuck. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's been worth it for the classes that I've taken that I can actually apply to what I'm doing. And I mean, even some of the classes that I didn't necessarily think that I would be able to apply, like I had a speech class where I'm like, it was a required class, and it's just finding a way in your mind where you can find how it does apply to something that you do. So like for me, I'm like, I run my podcast. I learned a lot of stuff about how to speak correctly and then how to program the shows of how to write the outlines and that kind of stuff. the math classes I could do without, but I mean the music production classes have been very, very good. And then even some of like the audio engineering classes where I'm sitting in a studio with a big ass $30,000 console and learning how to work that thing. So it's been cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good to hear.
Yeah. And I guess if you had to start it all over again right now, would you still go to the school?
Yeah. I might do. I actually probably not. I think I would go to just like a specialized like music production school, like I forget what it's like a SAE or whatever, the ones that are just like solely you're just there for what you actually
Yeah,
want.
I didn't realize this was a full bachelor's degree. I thought it was just I thought it was more of a trade school. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. No, but that's what I would probably do is look into more so of like what school is actually going to get the job done for me of just doing what I want to do, where it's like, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
but
Like
that is short term, and how fast you're able to that you're fast tracking this. I don't know that I totally agree. I think you're on a fast track program, so to have the actual bachelor's degree is nice. You know, even though you might have to do one of those schools to fill in some of the blanks that the math class skipped over, or you know, had to fill in for instead.
God, if I had to do math now, like
it's wild.
I would be like struggling big time.
You don't know how much you like forget, where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even remember how to do this stuff. And it's like, I'm 30. Like, clearly you don't need to know how to do this if I don't remember how to do it and I'm 30. Like, I'm not using it in my everyday life. So why the fuck are we learning it?
Well, you expect to have a calculator in your pocket at all times? What kind of
I'm like,
world do you
I
think
have
we're
my
living
phone
in?
like I have my phone. If I need a calculator, I'll just pull that thing out. Like,
It's funny because like for me, like I can do math stuff and know like where I need to get, but like I need the calculator. Like I know how to get the numbers that I want and what I'm looking for, but like to having to do that without that, or like go back to school and like I'd be like, oh God, this sucks.
the only math I know how to do without a calculator is tip percentage. I can do 20% like it's nothing. Just that's the service industry just ingrained into my brain.
See, I just know that that's too high. If they ask me a question, 20% is too high. It's got to be like I know that for a fact. I've learned that, but well, you mentioned oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Drew's been on a no tip rampage for the last year. He was the final straw is when the lady was hanging out the Starbucks drive-through asking asking for a tip, and he went on like a good 5-minute rant here on the show about it.
Well, I figured out the loophole, by the way, if anybody wants to know, is you get the Starbucks app and then you attach your card to it so it's scan and pay, and then it won't ask you the question. It just scans and pays right away, and then they don't get the tip screen. It goes straight to that.
You just bypass it.
Yeah, the app for everything. So I just order everything online now through the app.
Yeah.
Go pick it up, and I don't have to deal with ask me a question BS.
Didn't you say too, if you're standing while ordering, that you shouldn't have to tip? Isn't that your other theory?
There's a billion of those theories I have. I was just at the concert the other day, and the lady popped the beer and handed it to me, and it said a $5 tip. I don't give a fuck where you're at. I've never, for popping a beer, given $5 for a tip. You know what I mean? That's out of control.
Well, it was five loonies.
It was 20%. It was 20%.
It was 5 loonies. You were in Canada.
It was in Canada. But it's 20%. You know, it's like, look, I'll give 20% when the service is due, but you're killing me on there's no $1. I don't mind tipping $1, but I don't know where we got to $5. So,
and that's like what you're saying. Every bar that has like the handheld, where they'll like hand it to you, always starts with 25% or like 20% minimum. So it's like every time that you're doing anything, that 20% option is the the lowest amount that pops up.
Yeah. There's
So,
no way I'm paying $5 on every train. It's crazy. I started
Yeah.
bringing cash and being like, here you go.
you're like, that's how much the drink should cost.
Right.
All right. I don't want to go on any more rants about how I'm really not cheap. I'm a very generous tipper. It's just infuriating me.
Okay.
You mentioned your podcast, the platform podcast. We here to have this podcast. We know how hard it is to run. So maybe just explain, the premise behind it for those who haven't listened to it.
Yeah. So I started the mix show over COVID. So every Monday I put out a mix by DJs from all over the world. So if you guys want to put in a DJ mix, I'd love to have both of you guys put one on there. But yeah, that started for a couple years after COVID. When I moved here, I got the actual podcast portion started. And now we're 50 episodes in. I actually just posted the 50th episode today. And it's basically just centered around music industry, nightlife, sports, athletics. I have a lot of different like athletes come on the show, but the main premise is around music, and the music industries, where I'm having a lot of DJs on there, a lot of artists on there, trying to work into getting more people in A&R that work for record labels, maybe are doing booking for bigger festivals, that kind of stuff, and just get the backstories of what it's like to work those jobs, how you got into them, and what all goes on behind the scenes. Because as much as like every DJ has a very similar story, they're all different. They all have a different way of thinking, a different way that they came up and how they got into it, different way that they learned how to do everything. So it's cool to put those people on a platform, and give them kind of a voice and a place to be heard. So like today, the one that went out is a girl named XOLex, a country singer from here that just put out a new EP. I think she's a super talented country artist that hopefully blows up in the next couple of years, and I'll have this episode in the bank with her. So
it's nice having doing some of the A&R stuff and some of the other stuff as well, because it's always what I want to know as a DJ. A lot of DJs are always like, what's the exit plan, right? Well, there is so much stuff that we do that other people can't do on our day-to-day. Whether it is like be a tour manager or just graphics or social media and all that stuff. So it is interesting. Like I love hearing podcasts like that where you're giving a deeper dive into how these people got started with managing artists or dealing with record labels in general.
yeah, because that's one thing like you always hear is like, oh, you're a DJ, like, or oh, you work in the service industry, like, why don't you get a real job? Where it's like there are so many different avenues that you can work your way into because of what you've learned as a DJ,
right,
as a producer, whatever else it's going to be, that can carry over into a lot of these other jobs.
100%.
Let's see here. I've got a little social media clip I'm going to run, and then we'll talk a little social media. So we'll play
All
this.
Drew and Fuse, I'm all shook up, you hound dogs. Don't be cruel. It is now or never. Let's talk social media.
I don't know if you know, but that was the real Elvis introducing this social media clip.
So how old is that? How'd you guys get him on the show? Jeez.
Magic.
It was pulled some strings.
We had to go to one of those, what is it? The telepathic readers? I don't know. I can't speak. Pull out the crystal ball. She became
a medium.
Elvis.
Yeah.
Elvis took over her body and just started speaking.
Yeah, we recorded it. Luckily, we had mics and everything ready to go. So we'll talk a little social media, kind of mentioning your podcast. I feel like some of your clips have gone viral, and just maybe just kind of tell us about some of those and just maybe any tips that other DJs, tricks or tips that you've learned that could help other DJs.
Yeah, I mean, I preach it a lot of being present on your social media, and although I preach it a lot, I definitely I don't do near as much as I should. But especially in the DJ world, I mean, right now, social media and brand presence and everything like that online is huge. I mean, that's how you're going to break into other markets. That's how you're going to get a bigger following, and that's how you're going to up that rate when you are booked for other places. Is if they're seeing, oh man, you got 1 million followers, you're obviously going to get a lot more money than if you only have 5,000 or something like that. But as far as like my podcast goes, I mean, the clips is where you're going to get most of like the traffic. If you're not putting out clips for anything, you're not really going to be able to drive people to your page by just posting flyers and pictures of the guests, things like that. Those clips are what people are going to listen to, or at least like read the captions for, and get that engagement where then they're going to comment on it, hopefully like it, share it, do whatever else. And even from the podcast portion, I mean, from running my mix show and running the podcast, like I've grown such a bigger following from that, where even that coming into Nashville helped, because people knew me as a DJ from the mix show already, where now people know me from like the mix show and then know me from the podcast too, where they're like, oh, I've seen this DJ from Dallas on your podcast, or this DJ from Miami on your podcast, I love him. Whatever it's going to be, where that helps the brand too, and it helps the brand for other people, where people in Nashville might not know them, and all of a sudden they're following them. They're going to listen to their music. So that was always like the bigger part for me, to put these other people on a platform and give them a way to be heard by more people, or listened to by more people, whatever it's going to be. So, but social media is hard, man. I look at so much shit online, and a lot of the stuff that DJs do, and I'm just like, that shit is so cringy. Like, I could not post that. But then at the same time, it's like shit's getting 1 million likes, and it's like, I don't know. It's hard to find the balance.
I was mostly going to ask consistency. How do you or scheduling, having something in your head, you map out the whole month, that I think is probably the hardest part. Just that staying that consistent, knowing like, okay, Wednesday we do this, Tuesday we do this.
Yeah,
because we're obviously really good with that with our podcast.
We're not good at that. It's we struggle to get it up, get one out every week. Basically, Drew and I've been doing this since 2021, like October, February.
If you're getting close to 200 episodes, it's got to be, 52 a year.
Yeah, we missed some.
Yeah, we missed a big chunk, but it's getting that consistency and having that schedule. That's what I think. That's my takeaway right now. But that's what I'm asking you: is you have like a schedule or any tips and tricks you could give us?
Yeah, I try to. When I record stuff, if I have guests lined up, I'll try and line up like 2-3 guests in one day, just to knock out all these episodes in one day. Especially for me, like I'm typically doing them in person. I've only done, I want to say 3 that were virtual. All the rest have been in person, and that's just helpful with how many people are coming into Nashville. I always try and get them while they're in town here. But typically it's the mix show I put out every Monday. So then obviously I'm putting out like a graphic or a flyer with that every Monday. Tuesday, I try and put out a teaser clip for the episode that's going to come out on Wednesday. I put out another clip. Thursday, I try and put out another graphic for the mix that was on Monday, where I'll put the track list and everything for it. Just like as a reminder that, hey, this came out, go check out this mix. And then they'll be able to go and recheck that out, but then also see the track list. So a lot of DJs like to see that and see what songs are in the mix. That way, if they like it, they can go find it. They know exactly what edit or what remix it is. They can go download it. And then Friday, I would ideally like to post one more. On the weekends, I don't really post much, because I don't think people are going to sit down and watch a podcast over the weekend. the mixes, yeah, maybe if they're out on a boat or doing a pregame or something, they'll listen to one of the mixes. But typically, like Saturday, Sunday, I don't really post anything on the socials, and then try and start it back over again on Monday.
Good advice.
Yeah,
Schedule.
it's hard.
Schedule. It's
I
hard,
definitely
for
do
sure.
not keep that schedule, because there's so many times where I just get behind with school, with DJing, and I do it all myself, where it's like I don't have the time to cut the clip or make it to the quality that I want to, and then it doesn't get posted.
It's hard. Balancing it all is hard. That's where the problem for me I run into. I have 9,000 things that I'm doing, and we're squeezing this all in, and then it's like I hate saying it like this, but sometimes you get to the point where it's like it's good enough. We're just putting it out,
Yeah.
and I don't like doing that because I'm a perfectionist, but sometimes I believe it's best to put things out and keep adjusting versus to like just not do it at all. And like it's like you got to get the stuff out there, and then once it's out, then you can start making adjustments to it all.
Yeah, the episode part, I've gotten down to like a science of editing the episodes and putting them out where those are to the quality that I like. But then when it comes down to finding good clips, because it's like I'll narrow an episode down to 7 to 10 clips, and then I'm like, all right, which one of these are the really good ones that I can cut up and have the chance of getting some traction on social media. That's the hardest part, is like finding those gems that are going to be the ones that potentially can go viral.
Fuck it. We'll do it live. He said it best. It's the advice that I live by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being said, we're gonna do a little quick sponsor thing here, and we're gonna get into some music picks. So we're gonna play this video, and then we'll get into some music.
Hello, this is Bond. James Bond. Joanne Fuse, I think it's about time we talk about music. Personally, I like to listen to grown and sexy smooth jazz with my favorite girl, Pussy Galore. Now make me a cold martini, shaken, not stirred. And break down your top music.
All right, first, before we talk some music, Drew and I have our DMS pick of the week. That's a new little thing we're going to do here. And we're going to talk some music picks from you in this episode as well. First, I'll get started. My pick for this week is a bootleg I just posted on DMS. It went out yesterday.
The Chappell Rowan one?
Chappell Rowan and Coldplay and Avicii, Pink Pony Club, Over the Sky Full of Stars.
I was going to plug that as one of my songs for today.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
Dave Chappell Rowan versus Coldplay. However you say it. It's a banger. Yeah, download it. DMS being Direct Music Service, our sponsor for today. DirectMusicService.com. Grab that on there exclusively.
Yeah, and if you use, before Drew makes his pick, if you use the promo code DrewandFuseShow, it'll get you 30% off your first month.
Cool.
My pick is going to be, I'm having a brat girl summer, and it's extending into school year. And I'm going with my future ex-wife, Charlie XCX versus Fisher, 360 versus Boost Up, the EMKAY, the MK bootleg. That song just needed a little something extra for it, and it keeps the vibe of the grittiness of the brat girl. So that's what I'm going with.
MK is a very good friend of mine. He just sent me over that whole edit pack with that track on it, and it's dope.
Yeah, it's a banger for sure. And it definitely needed something, because the original's good. It's not peak hour slapper, but it hits it. So let's go into your music picks.
Before we get into it, I actually had a question for you. Now that you guys just labeled off these sponsors, that's one thing that I think that actually social media would be able to help with too, is getting some sponsors for the show too. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I've been trying to work on too. What advice do you guys have for how to obtain sponsors for a show?
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Wait, that's something we've been working on too.
Ours are all on a foundation of accidental success, basically, with that. So,
We
you know,
love
it's
falling into
basically
that.
been relationships that Drew and I have, already kind of existed with DMS and the show, and then, with Crate Hackers and the show. It's basically just been relationship based, and, I would say that's it.
Yeah.
It's
We
been
really
tough. I've
Oh.
heard of guys, though, basically drafting, a nice draft of a message or email and, cold sending with like hard numbers of like what they do, and to people that they think, the show represents. Like one that Drew and I would love would be like Anchor. We love Anchor products. We love their dongles, their charging.
Hey-o.
It's like,
Yeah. Something that you
all
can
their
have in every DJ
dongles.
bag. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that would be one. And we've actually tried that. I've cold wrote some emails with
Yeah.
numbers and stuff, and haven't
Liquid
got
Death.
through. Liquid
We've
Death
always
was
tried to
another
get
one.
Liquid Death.
Yeah. But
well, I have an answer for you. Is getting what I think all DJs need too. I don't think this is just a sponsorship for the show by any means. I think having a solid press kit, a really, really solid press kit. And as far as the show goes, showing numbers and where that translates is a DJ that's able to show their statistics from their reach on Instagram, and not just that they have a quote unquote million followers, because that means nothing,
Yeah.
to real brands.
Followers.
Yeah. If you can show real numbers and real engagement, that on like a solid press kit, then I think that goes a long, long way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my recommendation is press kit, having, I don't think it's just social media. I think it's like having your website where everything's at. Sometimes
Organized,
we'll
nice,
have
aesthetically pleasing.
yeah, sometimes we'll have DJs on and it's like we can't find anything about them at all. And so we're like trying to like do research on the show, and it's like, bro, you don't even exist online. How are you expecting to get like more shows if you don't exist? So 100% press kit, having all your stuff in one place that people could go to, and that's funnels it all into something else. So
yeah.
Yeah,
That's definitely something that I have, because I was like, Make It Now Media is one of my sponsors for the show, which is one that obviously fits perfectly for my show, being that they're centered around graphic design. They can do a lot of work for a lot of DJs and agencies and different venues. And they did my press kit, so it's one of the best press kits that I've ever seen. I love it. When I send it out to people, they always love it too. So, but yeah, I've sent out the emails to brands that I like to work with. I mean, like Shure, the microphones, and just reaching, but it's hard.
Another thing that I've talked to some other people about is, as far as podcast reach goes, is just how specific your client or like listener base is. So you got to say along the lines of like, we're a DJ centric, we're a music centric podcast. This is our reach. These are our numbers specifically to this. And so if that aligns with your stuff, these numbers aren't 20% of it is listening to it. This is 100% of who's listening to our podcast. And these are factual numbers. So being able to push that pretty heavy, with what we talk about.
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, I appreciate it. I wanted to just hear your guys' input on that. Let's get into some music then. What do you guys need from me?
We do these. We've been doing these. It's evolved over the show. We started doing, Serato top 5, and now we're just doing top 5 picks. Some weeks we theme it, some weeks we don't. With this being more of an interview episode of ours, we just wanted to have you do some picks. So whatever you want to hit us with, if there's no theme, just tell us that. If whatever.
Well, I got them all lined up. Basically from some of my top tracks that I'm playing out right now.
I love
Okay.
it.
Obviously, like I said, I had the Pink Pony and Coldplay, The Sky Full of Stars, because I just actually listened to that yesterday when I was going through some songs and trying to figure out which ones I wanted to put on here. So that was one, but we're gonna mark that off the list since you already got it. Some of the ones
Banger.
that I've been playing in my sets that are working really well in my sets. One of the ones that I had on here was Tiesto and Black Eyed Peas versus Showtek, and then GESES and LUSSO, the Pump It Louder, Arman, Aveiru, and Deville at it. It just starts off with that Black Eyed Peas, that turn up that radio. It just starts. Everybody hits that like ha ha ha. All hit that, but then it goes into the Showtek drop, which gives you that boost of energy. So I mean, you can play that peak hour set, and it works perfectly. Hits for me every time, especially at a place like Barstool, where it's like you're getting that sing along that caters to the crowd, that it has a familiar vocal with it, but then you're getting that high energy drop too. So that's one that I had on here.
Banger.
Next one I had was Danza Kuduro, and my buddy CRG from Texas. He did an edit where it starts with like the OG Danza Kuduro and then goes into a different EDM drop with a Tiesto drop. That one I think works really well too, especially if you have a little bit more of like an Americanized Latin crowd that doesn't know like all the hits. Like Danza Kuduro is ones that's always going to be a little bit familiar with everybody too.
For sure.
That's a good one that I've been playing out a lot. This one I found scrolling through SoundCloud. Kastra is a guy that I follow a lot on like SoundCloud and like TikTok. He'll put kind of how he makes these edits and remixes, and we'll like walk through and just play little snippets of them. He's got a Belinda Carlisle Heaven is a Place on Earth remix that's super dope. That's another one where caters to a lot of this female crowd, these bachelorette parties that are coming through, where they're all singing the entire first verse, first chorus, and then it goes into a dance drop that gives it that extra boost of energy as opposed to just playing the original. Fourth one I got is one that Cazes just sent over to me. One of my very good friends. He just dropped a Galantis Runaway edit on HMC, and then he's been doing a lot of these VIP edits lately where he'll do one edit and then he'll do a VIP edit with like a little bit different drop where it's either catered to guys that are playing festival sets or something like that, where this VIP edit goes into Satisfaction, and when it's like kicks into the vocals, that's where the drop will switch and start playing Satisfaction. And I just got it the other day, so I haven't been able to play it out, but it's one that I think will work really well. And then the last one I had is one that will work every single night here in Nashville. Post Malone, Morgan Wallen. I had some help. It's the LEONDIS remix. It's one that I've found works really well. The drop and everything for it just plays out very, very well. So those are some of my favorites. And one I had that I didn't even know until like yesterday when I was doing this. This is a bonus pick. I never put it together. I have a bunch of these edits and bootlegs and remixes in my Serato that are labeled DAFs. I'm always like, who the fuck is DAFs? And then until we started talking yesterday, I was like, holy fuck, it's a Drew and Fuse show.
Oh, we might have a surprise coming soon, but yeah, that's definitely some exclusives in there.
Yeah, because like that Benson Boone, The Beautiful Things bootleg that you guys have, that one plays out really well because it just gets right to the meat with the chorus that everybody knows the words for, as opposed to like the start of the song just kind of starts off a little bit slower. You can kind of kill a room with that. Just doesn't really necessarily have the energy all the time, but your guys' bootleg just gets right to the meat and then even like doubles up where it's just playing the chorus twice. So you can get in, get out of it, get the people what they want to hear and what they want to sing, and then right back out of it.
Right.
Yep.
That's a tough one. That's exactly it, being from a Midwest town yourself, you know how unforgiving Midwest crowds can be. So you have to figure out ways to get in and out of stuff, because it's like you
Yeah.
gotta play. You gotta play some of these new songs, but you got to figure out a way to do it and to make it work. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I definitely try to do when we're making some of the stuff. A lot of times Drew will send me like, hey, we need to do this, or we need a version of this. And then I'll sit there and kind of like figure it, and I'll send it to him and be like, do we like it like this, or do we like it like that? And that's kind of how we come up with some of them. So it's a
'cause,
joint
like,
effort.
I think of the same thing with like Pink Pony Club that you did, where Pink Pony Club, if you were to just rip that right from the beginning, it starts off so slow with basically like just her vocals until
Right.
it gets into the meat of it. And same thing with like Darren and I and Rod Yuri, we did an edit for Good Luck Babe when it like before it started popping. Like we were the first
Right.
ones that put an edit out for it, because my brother does a lot of event photography for all these different artists, and he told me like 7 months ago, he's like, bro, you gotta check out this Chappell Rowan girl. He's like, she's gonna fucking blow up. He's like, I shot a concert with her and there was so many fucking people there. And then he shot her at Bonnaroo, and he said that they had to switch her set time at Bonnaroo because she had so many fans. Like they had to put her to a main stage. Yeah. And then obviously Lollapalooza, she had 80,000 people. But so we put that edit out, and no record pools even had anything by her yet. And I told Darren and them same kind of thing. I was like, yo, we got to get this out. And it's just finding a track that like fits the energy and can get right into it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I love all those picks. I play a lot of times when I'm in a situation playing the same kind of like the vibe where it's like you got to keep things familiar, but they're also expecting like some DJ energy. So like some of those like what used to be called like Frankenstein edits, where it like goes to from the original to like a harder drop, I think work super well in those kinds of situations. So I like all those picks.
Nice.
Yeah, great pick.
Now we're going to kind of wrap up. This is a segment we do with everybody for the first time. We call it the sauce. We'll roll this video, and it's just kind of like your final takeaway. Like if you had to give advice to your younger self or advice to younger DJs, what that would be. So we'll play this and then we'll come back to you.
It's Bootsy, baby. And this shout out goes out to Drew and Fuse, all the way from Cincinnati to the LBC Bobble. Yeah, I was told you guys are quite the chefs, and you got a delicious sauce that you cook up. Ooh, and it drips that swagoo and breaks down the recipe. Yeah, and you giving up the pig, cause it's funky, as in good, that is, finger funkin' good. On the one by the power of the one. Yeah, without that, there is none. So get yours and be in tune with the one that loves you. Get it, baby.
All right, hit us with some sauce. What's your big takeaway in life up till now?
Oh man. This is a tough one, man. If we want to, do we want to cater it to DJing or catering it just to life or what?
Whatever you want to do is fine by us.
Makes you happy.
Yeah. Man, I think just being a good person with everyone. In the DJ community, it's such a toxic community, I feel like, especially in social media, Twitter, everything else. So trying to stay away from that, because there's so much hate as far as it goes with life in general, but then especially like in this DJ community too, where it doesn't get you anywhere. I mean, you putting down whatever other DJ just so you can try and get up or get into this place is never a good look. For me doing booking in the past, those are the kind of people that I would literally stay away from and not even try and book at all. But yeah, just being good and being good to everybody. You can always learn a lot from everyone, whether you think you can or not. And then building those networks and building those connections is going to pay off a lot more than talking shit about somebody that has no effect on your life anyway. So
Agreed. I think
Agreed.
it's great advice, you know, and sometimes you have to live through it to really understand it. But, you know, if anybody, you know, out there is listening and, you know, you think about, you know, there's 2 routes you can go. And I think the being nice pays off a lot more than the not being nice. So,
yeah.
but that's pretty much it for today. So, you know, we just kind of wanted to say thanks for joining us. And before we sign off here, just let everybody know where they can find you and plug your show and all that as well.
Yeah, for me, it's at DJ Dex MKE on everything, Instagram, Twitter, all the handles are all the same in uniform. And then for the platform, it's at the Platform Mix on everything, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. For the mixes, those come out every Monday. They're out on Mixcloud. They're out on Apple Podcasts. They're out on SoundCloud. And then for the podcast portion, it's out every Wednesday on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. So that's it. And then obviously, if you're ever out in Nashville, stop by Barstool, hit me up. I'll be out in Tampa this weekend, and then Scottsdale and Chicago and a couple other spots coming up here soon. So just hit me up.
Love it.
Awesome.
That's it for today. Until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it a lot, man. It's been awesome.